Welcome back, everybody, to this week's edition of the PGA DFS Pick Show. I am your host, John McNutt. I can be found on socials at JohnCool19, here for Fantasy Sports Insight, talking PGA DFS on DraftKings. This week we have the PGA Championship. Super excited to be back in another major. Really excited to see some more of the live golfers back. As much as I don't pay attention to their tour very much, I am happy to have them competing this week. A lot of really good golfers that we have played for many, many years here on DraftKings, and some favorites of Fantasy Sports Insight. Super excited to have them back. So let's go ahead and jump right in, talking about the course first. This is Oak Hill Country Club. The course has hosted all of the majors outside of the Masters, including amateur events, senior tour, U.S. Open. It really has been a championship course through and through. So certainly a course that people are familiar with if you've watched some championship golf over the years, including some of the PGA, the LPGA events. So yeah, really excited. This is a very, very difficult course. If you look at the specs on it, it's 7,400 yard par 70. That is just a brute. Very, very long for a par 70 course. Bent grass greens. We're looking at kind of some of the features here. Very, very narrow fairways and very difficult small greens. So as far as kind of landing areas for golfers, extremely difficult. We're going to see a very small percentage when it comes to versus the PGA average, a small percentage of fairways hit, a small percentage of greens in regulation. What that's going to lead to is lots of scrambling for the golfers this week. That's one of my key stats. As far as how you can win at this course, you need to be excellent on approach, and then you need to be great at total driving. That's a combination of drive distance and drive accuracy. As far as in my modeling, I'm kind of even looking on the drive accuracy, honing in on narrow fairways. The course is like the Mexico Open, where the fairway is as wide as you could imagine. I do not want to include those courses in my modeling, looking at more courses with very tight, narrow fairways. As far as the rough goes this week, everything we see footage of people with boots on the ground, it is somewhat lengthy, average to long, but it is thick. If you miss the fairways this week, or the greens for that matter, very difficult to get out of. It is going to grab your ball, eat it up. I heard some people that were watching practice rounds today mentioning that golfers that wound up in the rough, they had a difficult time getting into the green. They were coming up short over and over and over. That just leads me to believe once more that accuracy off the tee is going to be extremely important this week. The greens themselves, I mentioned, they are very small. They should be very fast as well, so a difficult situation there. So I'm including around the green play in my modeling, again, with that small greens in regulation. Then just overall, as far as the course, we're looking at two very long par fives, not really all that scoreable. We're not going to see a ton of eagles. Might not see almost or very few eagles this week unless somebody is holing out from the fairway. And then of the par threes, two of them extremely long as well. So as far as the course as a whole, we're looking at there's no free birdies here. There is no holes where we're going to see guys driving the green on par fours, that sort of thing. This is going to be a very difficult round for everybody all 4 days. So I'm going to include in my modeling heavily on bogey avoidance, and really bogey avoidance when it comes to difficult courses. The last thing to mention, the sand traps here, and as well as the creek. There's a creek that runs through kind of the entire course here. So there's not like tons of water, but it's strategically placed. If you're on the wrong side of the fairway, there's a creek there. If you come up short of the green, the creek kind of can cut across, maybe even cut down on people being able to go longer distance on their club. So the creek is going to play as a pretty big hazard this week, but really the bunker play. These bunkers are very deep, treacherous. From what I have seen in photos, it looks like if you're in the sand, you are in a really bad way. So I'm going to include a little bit of sand saves in my modeling as well. One last thing to mention, if you were building models, no course history here. If you want to go way back, yes, Duffner has played this course before and played it well. I don't care about how they played here many years ago. I care more about how golfers have played in the majors the last couple seasons. So last 2-3 years, if you include all 4 majors, looking at shots gained on those courses, I think that gives you a good idea of who is going to be able to play well on these difficult type courses like we'll see here this week. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into my favorite plays. Starting off, Patrick Canttley. If you look at the pricing here, he is not the most expensive. But as far as Rory, Scheffler, Rahm, all three of those guys are absolute targets. If you're playing a bunch of DFS lines, no reason you can't play any of those guys or all of them for that matter. You probably got to plant your flag somewhere and not play every single one if you're playing a bunch of lines. But for me, my number one guy I'm going to pay down just a little bit. That is Patrick Canttley at 9,700 on DraftKings. I think he's an excellent bet as well in the outright market at 16 to 1 odds. His form really good. He has one missed cut since last year's PGA Championship, which he missed the cut there also, but just one missed cut in the last calendar year. 3 top fives already here in 2023 for Patrick Canttley. He was also 14th at the Masters. He's got a good track record when it comes to playing at majors. He's made the cut in 5 out of 6 PGA championships. And as far as total majors, he has made the cut in 19 out of 23 tries. I like that a ton. Very consistent. Ranks really well on finding the fairway on the narrow fairways, like I mentioned on the course. He is number one in this field in putting on bent grass greens over the last couple of years. If you fine tune that to the last year, 6 months, 36 rounds, he's pretty much top 5 no matter how you look at it. He absolutely loves putting on bent grass. He should tear it up there this week. And then as far as kind of some additional stats, he is 19th in drive distance, 9th in ball striking in this field, and he ranks 8th in proximity from 200 plus yards. That is going to be a key stat this week. Lots of approach shots coming from that 200 plus range. He's also top 10 bogey avoidance on difficult courses. So a lot to like on Patrick Canttley. Next, I'm going to go with Tony Finau at 9,500 on DraftKings. He's 22 to 1 outright. From what I've seen, a lot of people on Twitter are betting Tony Finau this week to win. I actually kind of like it, especially at the 22 to 1. I think that's a great value here for Tony Finau. He's in great form. He's made 12 straight cuts. 2 of those were wins. That's the Mexico Open and the Houston Open. Bent grass is his best putting surface. He ranks 28th over the last 2 years. His irons are really dialed in. He is excellent recently with the irons. And his last 50 rounds, he is 5th ball striking, 4th on that bogey avoidance, and 10th when it comes to long par 4s, which we should see quite a few of those this week. So a whole lot to like here on Tony Finau. Again, both these guys I think are excellent in cash. I think they're excellent in GPP. And even if you want to make an outright ticket for either of them, I fully support it. Let's go with some values and then some pivot plays, starting with Joaquin Niemann. One of the guys I mentioned, just a live golfer that I absolutely could not wait to play again and again. I'm happy to play him at the Masters, which I did. Happy to play him again this week. And you can bet I'll be playing him at the US Open as well in a month or so when that comes around. For him, the form it's good, although it's on the live tour. I don't really care too much, but he's playing well. He's got a top 10 in each of his last 2 events. If you look in his total for live events, he has 6 top 5s. That's like 50% of the events he's winning, or sorry, he's finishing top 5. So playing very well. Obviously, the competition is different, but some very good golfers there. He's playing excellent, although no wins on that tour yet. He has made the cut in 11 out of 16 majors, but really what I'm looking at is just the last couple of years. He's made the cut in his last 9 major championships, 16th at the Masters just a month ago or so. And then as far as the PGA Tour, if you look back to the end of last season, before he made the jump, he finished top 15 in all 3 playoff events. That is excellent with an elite field like we are going to see this week. And as far as stats for Joaquin Niemann, tough to track, obviously, with him being on the live tour, but he has always been an excellent ball striker, and he is above average or so when it comes to putting on bent grass greens. So I think he is an excellent option in the 7K range of value play. Certainly, you can fit him in any cash lineup and GPPs as well. Now for some low-owned pivots. These are guys I really like for some GPP lineups to get you off of the chalkier plays, make you very unique, especially if you're playing in something like the Millie Maker, starting with Scheffler, with Rahm, or Rory for that matter. Everybody's going to pick one of those 3. I feel like a high percentage will pick one of those 3. But if you go with Colin Morikawa, you are making yourself different right off the bat before you pick any of the rest of your golfers. Colin Morikawa, he's at 10,300 on DraftKings. He is at about 7% projected ownership right now. That's the lowest of anybody that is over 9K, with the exception of Jordan Spieth. All the news right now is that Jordan Spieth is injured his wrist. He's got tape on it, and I will avoid 100% the Jordan Spieth this week. But outside of him, Colin Morikawa is your pivot in the high end range. He He's a former PGA champion, is Colin Morikawa. The irons are really hot right now. He is, as we all know, a fairway finder, not the longest hitter, but he finds the fairway consistently. And when it comes to that 200 plus approach distance, he is excellent from there. Really, any distance for Colin Morikawa with the irons. He's going to find fairways. He's going to find greens. He is an excellent option this week. It's all a matter of whether or not he can get the putter going. But even if he's just average with the putter, that's a top 10 for Colin Morikawa, in my opinion, this week. Great for leverage on the field on DraftKings right off the bat at 10-3. The last guy I want to talk about here is Christian Bezuidenhout. He is at 7,200. I'm looking at a projection of around 3% ownership, quite low, especially when you compare him to a couple guys right next to him in Siwoo Kim and Gary Woodland. Both of those guys gaining a lot of steam. He's going to be like at a third or a quarter of the ownership of those two guys. He ranks second in this field on bent grass over the last 2 years. Bent grass putting, that is. The irons are really hot right now for Bezuidenhout, and also he is a fairway finder, so similar to Colin Morikawa there, playing some really good golf as far as at a 7,200 price tag, get you some leverage down low as well, and then you could maybe fit in some chalkier guys in the middle. One more guy to mention here that I really like this week, not on the slide, that is Ricky Fowler. He is not a pivot option. He's going to be very highly owned, but I think for good reason. He is back in good form. He has excellent history at U.S. Open's PGA Championship courses. And then also he has top 15 in each of his last 4 events, 11 straight made cuts. The ownership is a little scary, but I think he is an excellent option for cash. And then if you're playing somebody like Colin Morikawa, you can absolutely play Ricky Fowler in that same lineup, no problem at all. You can certainly be unique just by playing somebody like Colin Morikawa and getting that low ownership there. So okay in GPPs, as long as you are not playing all chalky options with Ricky Fowler, certainly can fit him in, no problem. All right, last slide here. That is my one and done pick. I'm going to go with Patrick Canttley, one of the better studs that I have remaining for this year's contest. I dropped about 5 spots in the rankings to 913. I had Adam Scott last week, T8, that was respectable. But unfortunately, Jason Day was just about as popular as Adam Scott, and he went out and won. So good on J Day. I'm glad he is back. Adam Scott playing excellent. Gave me the T8, but unfortunately dropped a few spots. But really a top 5 or so, maybe top 3 this week out of Patrick Canttley, and I'll find myself right back in the money in the one done contest. This is for the Pat Mayo Open on Fantasy National Golf Club. Shout out to them as always. All our stats on this show are provided by Fantasy National Golf Club, so check them out if you haven't already. That is going to do it for this week's show. I appreciate you watching. I will be posting a core on the Discord as well as ownership projections, any weather concerns, which right now it doesn't look like the weather will be a huge factor, but some warning chilliness is kind of regional here to Rochester, New York. So that could be something that plays into which golfers we're targeting, kind of some wave stacking, not necessarily with a lot of wind or weather, but just that cold morning. I don't necessarily want my guys going out at 7 a.m. when it is that chilly out. So that will all be in the Discord as well. The best way to find that is through the Twitter page at FSi_DFS. You can also go through our website, FSiDFS.com. Really hope to see you there. If you have any questions or comments, leave them here on YouTube. I'll try and answer everything. And good luck this week. I hope your golfers do well.